My name is Ryan Maddox, and for the past 20 years, my life has been dedicated to emergency services. A few months ago, I accepted the role of fire chief for Hawthorne County, Florida, which meant relocating with my wife, Elise, to a beautiful gated community called Willow Creek Estates. We thought it would be a fresh start, the perfect place to settle, especially with Elise's health battles. Elise has been living with multiple sclerosis for the past 5 years. Her condition was getting worse, and we needed a home that could accommodate her changing needs. Willow Creek seemed perfect. Wide sidewalks, single-level homes, proximity to the hospital. We paid a premium for the promise of safety and accessibility. What the realtor failed to mention was the iron rule of one woman, Margaret Langston, the president of the Willow Creek HOA. Margaret was the sort of person who treated HOA regulations as if they were sacred texts delivered straight from the heavens. Silver-haired, always impeccably dressed, and armed with a tablet she wielded like a weapon, she took community standards to authoritarian extremes. We first met her during our closing process when she summoned us for an orientation meeting. "Mr. and Mrs. Maddox," she said, peering over reading glasses at a file already full of our personal details. "Welcome to Willow Creek. Here, we pride ourselves on preserving a certain atmosphere." Her eyes lingered on Elise's wheelchair. "We do have procedures for special accommodations," she said with a tight smile, "though we encourage modifications that do not disrupt the community's visual integrity." We left that meeting uneasy but hopeful. Surely, common sense and empathy would win out when needed. We couldn't have been more wrong. The first sign was the battle over a wheelchair ramp. Though we submitted designs that blended seamlessly with our home's architecture, Margaret personally denied them, saying a front ramp would disrupt the harmonious streetscape. She approved a side entrance ramp only after weeks of appeals, making it narrower than recommended safety standards. Parking became the next fight. Our modified van, essential for Elise's transport, was cited under commercial vehicle restrictions. Despite explaining again and again that this was a private, medically necessary vehicle, we were threatened with daily fines. It became clear Margaret saw Elise's disability not as a neighbor's challenge to support, but as an aesthetic flaw to eliminate. Meanwhile, other residents freely violated HOA rules without consequence. Golf carts parked overnight, unauthorized basketball hoops, backyard sheds, all ignored. But Elise's medical equipment? Unforgivable. Still, we settled into our new life as best we could. I dove into my work modernizing Hawthorne County's emergency response systems. Elise tutored from home, volunteered for the MS Society, and blogged about her experiences. We had friends in the neighborhood who quietly sympathized, but fear of Margaret's retribution kept them silent. Then, one Wednesday afternoon, everything changed. I was at the fire station when the call came. Elise had suffered a severe MS flare-up. She collapsed at home alone, barely able to speak. The dispatcher dispatched an ambulance immediately. I grabbed my keys and raced toward home. Minutes later, over the radio, I heard the unimaginable. "Chief Maddox," my paramedic Jason's voice crackled through, tense. "We're being blocked at the Willow Creek gate." "Blocked?" I shouted into the radio. "By the HOA president," Jason confirmed. "She says emergency vehicles aren't allowed without prior approval." My heart stopped. "Put her on." A moment later, Margaret's crisp voice came through. "This is Margaret Langston, president of Willow Creek Estates." "Mrs. Langston," I said tightly. "That ambulance is responding to a medical emergency at my home. Move the gate immediately." "Chief Maddox," she replied with chilling calm. "Community regulations prohibit non-residential vehicles between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. without prior authorization. We must protect the peace." "My wife is in medical crisis," I barked. "This is an emergency." "Medical transport is not specifically exempted," she said. "Perhaps she can be brought to the gate?" It took everything in me not to scream. "If you continue to block that ambulance," I said, "you will be criminally liable for obstruction." I tore down the road toward Willow Creek, sirens blaring. When I arrived, the scene looked like a twisted nightmare. Margaret had parked her Lexus across the entry gate. The security guards stood helplessly nearby. Residents gathered, some filming, others shouting. Jason's team stood ready, but helpless. I jumped out of my SUV, badge gleaming, heart pounding. "Move your car," I ordered. "Chief, the bylaws clearly." "You are breaking the law," I roared. "Obstruction of emergency services is a felony." Move it now. Residents shouted their support. Finally, Margaret paled and backed her car away. The ambulance roared through, with me right behind. Inside our home, Jason's team worked fast. Elise was semi-conscious, slurring her words, one side of her body limp. They stabilized her and prepared for immediate transport. Margaret had the audacity to follow us inside, waving her binder. I'm afraid prolonged ambulance presence violates. Get out, I said, my voice low and shaking. Or I'll have you removed. She backed away stunned. Elise, even in her fragile state, whispered, Don't let this go. I promised her I wouldn't. As soon as Elise was safe at the hospital, I made calls. First to the county attorney, then to the fire marshal. What Margaret had done wasn't just morally wrong, it was criminal. Further investigation revealed Willow Creek's safety standards were a joke. Fire hydrants were blocked by landscaping. Emergency access roads were gated and padlocked. No proper fire lane markings anywhere. We organized an emergency meeting with the HOA board, county officials, and emergency services. Margaret swaggered in, still convinced she could justify herself. I presented the evidence, photographs, statutes, testimonies. I played the audio of Margaret blocking Jason's team. The room exploded. The county commissioners ordered immediate corrections. Unrestricted emergency access, compliant hydrant spacing, enforced fire lanes. Margaret protested, but no one listened. Roger Harmon, the HOA vice president, stepped up. We move for a leadership vote, he said. The vote was overwhelming. Margaret was removed as HOA president. Real leadership took her place. New policies ensured emergency vehicle access at all times. Accessibility accommodations were prioritized over superficial aesthetics. Willow Creek began transforming overnight, not into a less beautiful place, but into a stronger, safer, kinder community. Elise improved with treatment, though some damage was permanent. But she found a new mission, advocating for accessible communities. She became a local hero, working with the MS Society, teaching others about their rights. As for Margaret Langston, she quietly sold her house within months and moved away. The residents never mentioned her again, except in hushed, cautionary whispers. And me? I stood by my wife's side, prouder than ever of the woman who survived, who fought, and who turned her own pain into hope for others. We learned that a community's worth isn't measured in manicured lawns and matching mailboxes. It's measured by how it treats those who need help most. Willow Creek found its soul again, not through perfection, but through compassion. And it all started because one woman dared to block an ambulance, and an entire neighborhood decided never again.